Alright, and welcome back to Star Wars Review. Today is the monthly Star Wars recap for April 2026, which this month there's obviously more Mandalorian and Grogu news, but also some video game news and some publishing news as well. But let's jump into that Mandalorian and Grogu stuff as there's a couple different things. There was another final trailer for Mandalorian and Grogu, which I'll maybe do a breakdown. I started writing one, but didn't finish it, and there wasn't anything super duper crazy new in it. So maybe closer to the release, I'll do a maybe talking about that trailer, but also some TV spots, what will inevitably come out next couple weeks. But the trailer, I thought, really seemed to emphasize the relationship between Din and Grogu, as I do think that's going to be a big point of the movie, will be Grogu starting to become more independent, as we see him off on his own in the trailers. And I feel like some of the dialogue from this trailer does seem to focus on that more, as there's one moment where Din talks about how the old protect the young, and then the young protect the old. So I assume that's going to be a more central kind of theme to these two characters' story arc throughout this movie. Obviously, there'll be all that other stuff of the New Republic and the Imperial warlords and Rada the Hutt and all that, which the trailer was shown at the CinemaCon, which I guess they also showed like 15-20 minutes, the first 15 to 20 minutes of the movie. There are two people at CinemaCon, and there were descriptions released, which I didn't read super deep into them. I read kind of basic stuff about it, but I do think it kind of reveals a couple plot things. But it does seem like the footage might also be shown in Fortnite, as currently they're doing a bunch of Star Wars stuff, which I'll kind of talk about a little bit more later. But it seems like on May 19th, they'll have an in-game event, which will show at least 10 minutes of the footage in Fortnite. I would assume it's the same footage, but from the descriptions I read, so there will be slight spoilers here. Like I said, I didn't really read too much of the description, just kind of the basics of it, which seems like the movie starts on that snow world, as we see Din and Grogu fighting the Empire, taking them all out there. So seems like the movie's going to start with a lot of big action scenes, and then afterwards we see Mando and Grogu head back to the New Republic base on Adelphi, where Sigourney Weaver's character, Colonel Ward, gets introduced and gives them their next mission, which is to help save Rada the Hutt, as it seems like those two twin Hutts have hired the New Republic to do so. And so that final little description there, which I guess is where the scene kind of ends, or the footage they showed ends, really does kind of give the first big plot point of the story to me, as I wasn't sure if they're helping the Hutts or what. So seems like, at least at first, helping them. Obviously, from the footage from the trailers, seems like some stuff goes a little wrong, but it excites me more there to actually have a little bit of plot details, as so far the trailers really haven't revealed too much there. At least nice to have a little bit of something. But outside of that, there was also a clip revealed during I think it was Jimmy Kimmel. I think Jon Favreau was doing an interview on Jimmy Kimmel's show, and they showed a clip which shows Din and Zeb in a speeder on a sandy desert world, as they have that Imperial warlord who might be named Lord Janu. They have him in cuffs and riding in the speeder, going back to the new Razor Crest, as Din's calling up Grogu, who's inside the cockpit, telling him to press some buttons to help them out, but instead he flicks up these switches and shoots some missiles out. So, being a little mischievous, but yeah, that's really the clip. Nothing super crazy, but it is interesting that they have this Janu, I guess, arrested as really the only other promotional stuff we've seen of him is him sitting in an arena with Grogu in a cage. So I'm interested to see what his character is up to. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. Mandalorian and Grogu. Like I said, I'll maybe get a trailer breakdown. I might wait until, a couple weeks from now and do one with talking about that trailer, but also some of the TV spots and other promotional material released. But there was also another bigger news story from last month. It was right at the start of the month, as the animated show Maul Shadow Lord has been airing its first season, which started on April 6th. And a couple days before that, Lucasfilm confirmed that the series will be returning for a second season, as there was some questions if it would be a multi-season show, as the final episode of season 1 is titled Chapter 10 Finale. So, it is nice to have confirmation that there will be more beyond, this current season. So I do wonder how long the series will go for, as, some of the recent animated shows like Rebels went for 4 seasons, Bad Batch went for 3 seasons. Obviously, there was Resistance, which went for 2 seasons, but that was seemingly kind of canceled, but still kind of wrapped its story up. Obviously, that one wasn't as well received as Clone Wars, Rebels, Bad Batch, and now Maul Shadow Lord. But, obviously there's a lot of time in this era to explore Maul. Obviously don't know if there'll be time jumps in between seasons or what. Not fully sure. We'll obviously find out in the, final 2 episodes, and obviously when season 2 eventually comes out. But to now move into the new releases from April 2026. There was obviously Maul Shadow Lord episodes 1 through 8, which I am actually a little behind. I need to watch those last 2 episodes before the final 2 episodes. So, yeah, and I do need to write reviews for episodes 5 and 6. And I also need to upload my reviews for episodes 1 through 4. So, I'm behind. Once again, I kind of, even though from the episodes I've watched, like releasing 2 episodes a week fits the show, but I kind of wish I just did 1 a week. And, I hope the next live action show, which will be Ahsoka season 2, I hope they release 1 episode a week for that show. Maybe start with the 2 episode premiere, but I like the 1 episode a week. But anyways, from the episodes I've watched of Maul Shadow Lord, I really, really like it. So yeah, and I'll get my reviews out eventually. Hopefully I can get them all done before Mandalorian and Grogu comes out. But there was also comics, Shadow of Maul issue 2, and Galaxy's Edge Echoes of the Empire issue 1, which I did not get around to reading those. I will hopefully maybe eventually and get reviews out of them. But lastly, there was a new Audible original audiobook titled Terror on Mustafar, which I didn't listen to that yet, and I will dive into that more in a moment. But beforehand, there is some video game news, as we got a release date and pricing information for Star Wars Galactic Racer, which will release on October 6, 2026. So later this year, and the game will launch at $59.99, so $60, and there will be a deluxe edition for $79.99. which comes with a couple of skins, and the physical version will come with like a steelbook case. But there will also be a collector's edition, which will be $159.99, which comes with the deluxe edition, but then like a model of one of the speeders, plus like an art book and some other small collectible items. But also announced was a Star Wars themed DLC for the game PowerWash Simulator 2, which in the DLC you'll play as a droid named P0-W2, who's a rebel cleaning droid, and you'll be cleaning locations and vehicles from the original trilogy, which there's a trailer showing Hoth and Tatooine, and then also cleaning an X-Wing, which I guess the DLC will have 6 levels and come out sometime this summer, which all the other DLCs for the PowerWash Simulator games have been like $8, I think. So I assume this DLC will be priced similar to those ones. I am, excited for this, as I do enjoy the 2 PowerWash Simulator games. I never bought any of the DLCs because they add 6 levels and they're $8, so they're a little expensive, but I'll probably get this one because it's Star Wars and maybe do a playthrough of it. I don't know. But like I mentioned earlier, Fortnite is doing some Star Wars events for May 4th, which they added 3 new Star Wars game modes, along with like new skins and whatnot. But the game modes do actually kind of sound fun. There's Galactic Siege, which is a large-scale PvP mode set across several planets. Then there's Escape Vader, which is a 4-player co-op game where you have to escape Vader. Then Droid Tycoon, where you'll build some droids and whatnot. So, yeah, sounds interesting. Maybe I'll re-download Fortnite and play some of these. Haven't played Fortnite in several years, so, and I think they've done Star Wars events really every May for a couple years now. But that's all the video game news. So let's move into some publishing stuff, which, like I mentioned earlier, there was a new Audible original release titled Terror on Mustafar, which the story was written by Captain Scott, and because it's an Audible original, it's only in audiobook format, and it was narrated by Mark Thompson, who does a majority of the Star Wars audiobooks. But I think this is the 5th Audible original Star Wars story now, and there is a description for it which says, Imperial cadets are in awe of the Empire's mightiest warrior, Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith. But when a few young cadets find themselves trapped on the lava-filled planet of Mustafar and in the shadow of Vader's castle, they will soon discover that the Empire is not what it seems. Now they must work together to escape from an evil scientist, his horrendous experiments, and the fearsome Darth Vader. So yeah, I haven't listened to it yet. In fact, several of those Audible originals I haven't actually listened to either, but obviously Captain Scott has written a lot of stories with Vader's castle, so kind of funny to see him do another one, because there's all those comics and whatnot he did. But, I really enjoyed his work he did for the High Republic. And, I hope he gets to write another adult novel or a Marvel comic soon, as he's mostly been doing the middle grade stuff. So, obviously he did that before the High Republic, but I really liked his High Republic stories. So I'd like to see more from him. But continuing with some audiobook news, it was revealed that new unabridged versions of X-Wing, Izard's Revenge, and Starfighters of Adumar, or however I fucking forget how to pronounce some of these. Anyways, they're going to be released on November 10th, 2026. Also narrated by Mark Thompson, who did all the other X-Wing novels in the past few years, as those were being re-released under the Essential Legends collection. And these were the last two X-Wing novels what didn't have unabridged versions, which unabridged means it's the full novel, where I think decade, like 20, 30 years ago, they had abridged versions of the X-Wing novels. So it is nice to have the whole series in audiobook, unabridged audiobook format now. Strangely, doesn't seem like this will be part of the Essential Legends collection, as there isn't any new paperback listings for the novels, and the artwork for the audiobooks uses the original covers for it. So hopefully they do release the larger trade paperback format for these novels, as they are currently only available in the mass market paperback format, as I tend to enjoy the trade paperback format more. But I also enjoy audiobooks, so it is nice to have those coming out later this year. But continuing on with more publishing news, this time a new middle grade novel was revealed titled Star Wars Hiding from the Dark, which will be a horror themed novel, and it will use a Star Wars horror novel marketing, similar to the upcoming romance novel. I forget what that one's called, but this one will be written by Kirsten White and released on September 1st, 2026. Which the description for it says, explore the darkest corners of the Star Wars galaxy in this chilling, horror-themed middle grade novel by New York Times bestselling author Kirsten White. Pursued by Imperial forces, a young girl named Baya must flee from her home planet of Coruscant and find her mother. All the time, she is hunted by a figure in black, a presence more horrifying than she has ever encountered before. Can Baya escape? And what does she have that the Empire wants so badly? Horror readers and Star Wars fans of all ages will thrill to this fright-filled middle-grade novel, which the figure in black is Vader, as the cover shows Vader on it. Interested in this? Kind of wish they'd use someone other than Vader for spooky things. I feel like they kind of overuse him for it. Like, I think it would be cool to bring like a character like Grievous back to that more scariness he can, like what we kind of saw in the 2003 Clone Wars animated micro series. Obviously with Grievous, like Revenge of the Sith and the Clone Wars showed him as a little more goofy though. But finally the final publishing stuff, the July 2026 comics were revealed, which there's no new series or anything. There's the Rogue One Saw Gerrera one shot, which will come out July 1st, 2026. And then the final issue of Shadow of Maul, issue 5, which will come out July 8th. And then Galaxy's Edge Echoes of the Empire, issue 4, which will come out July 15th. So nothing crazy there with the Marvel comics. I do hope they pick up, like we get a new ongoing soon. I don't know if they'll wait to do more just with publishing with the comics and the novels till next year with the 50th anniversary coming up. Which, talking about next year, the key art for Star Wars Celebration 2027 was revealed, which it's similar to the original poster for A New Hope, but with like an LA background to it. So yeah, I probably won't go. I'm hoping the one after this is on the East Coast, so I can maybe attend. I don't know. Probably won't be till 2029 then. But yeah, that's all the news from April. Now to jump into everything coming out in May, which there's actually a decent bit currently slated to come out. There's obviously Maul, Shadow Lord, chapters 9 and 10 on May 4th. And then obviously a brand new movie with The Mandalorian and Grogu on May 22nd. But then there's a bunch of new comics. Rogue One, Cassian Andor one shot, which comes out May 6th. Alongside Hyperspace Stories, The Bad Batch Rogue Agents issue 3. Then Shadow of Maul issue 3 comes out on May 13th. Then The High Republic Adventures Pathfinders issue 2, also on May 13th. And finally, Galaxy's Edge Echoes of the Empire issue 2, which comes out May 27th. I think also the final issue of the Star Wars Insider magazine will come out, which I think will also include a new short story, so there's also that. But that's all the new releases coming out in May. Obviously, I'll be doing probably a few Mandalorian videos this month leading up to the new movie, and I'll hopefully get the Maul Shadow Lord stuff done. Like I said earlier, have four reviews pretty much like written out, but I don't know, maybe it would have been a better idea for me to do the 2 episodes in one review. So maybe I'll rework them and do it that way. Maybe. I'm not sure. But anyways, that's going to be it for this one. I've been Star Wars Review, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
I'll be right behind you. Go. Go!
Mandalorian, you will suffer. Then it will be his turn.
Monstrous. The old protect the young.